3PL fails. That's the topic for this week. And why is it? The last time I looked at the statistics, something like 55% of 3PL relationships fail within 3 to 5 years. That's shocking. Why is that? Let's talk about that this week. So why is there such a high failure rate with 3PL relationships? And the numbers I've seen bandied around recently are something like 55% fail within the first 3 to 5 years. For me, it comes down to some very simple steps that people are really just not taking. And you know, I've been involved in assisting companies through logistics outsourcing relationships for 30 years probably. And I still see the same mistakes being made as I did 30 years ago. So what I'd like to do this week is just highlight a couple of things and then give you a guide to the most common mistakes for 3PLs and their customers. Just a really simple guide, but hopefully it will help you avoid some of the mistakes. And I'll put a link down below the video. So what sort of things go wrong? I reckon we can kind of group these into some very simple areas. One is misaligned expectations. And I think this can fall pretty firmly on the customer side sometimes, where if they're not experienced in selecting 3PLs, in managing 3PL relationships, they can kind of not get what it's about and how it's supposed to work, and maybe their expectations are a little bit unrealistic. So that would certainly be number one. I think number two for me is lack of communication, and that's definitely on both sides. Let me give you an example of that. So for the customers, for example, you've got to give lots and lots of detailed information about your product range, your customers, the things that go well, the things that don't go well. You've got to share that with the 3PL, because if you don't, it's going to come back and bite you, because if they win the contract and then, you know, typically things like returns cause issues. You know, if after 6 months they say, hey, you didn't tell us to expect 7% returns, you know, what's going to happen? You're going to get charged for that, and you're going to be upset because it's an extra charge that you didn't expect. So communication is really important. And on the 3PL side, what is it that the customers want to see? Good communication and visibility around things like resourcing and costs, because if it's all, you know, smoke and mirrors and a bit of a black box, they wonder if the pricing is fair and things like that. Also, I think on both parties' side, but very often it happens more with the customer side, it's really not understanding 3PL rate structures. And I'm not talking about, you know, whether $5 a week storage for a pallet is okay or not. What I'm talking about is the rate, the application of that rate. You know, so very often it's a cost for products being handled into a warehouse, being put away, being picked, being dispatched, and so on. There's many different ways for 3PLs to charge for those services, different rate structures, and you really need to understand those and which ones are going to be more appropriate for your business. And of course, doing that openly with a 3PL, because this is not about each party trying to get one over on the other party, because that's going to lead to a very short-term relationship. It's all about openness and transparency and honesty and sharing information, so that, you know, it's like going into a marriage. I talked about that recently on LinkedIn. You know, a logistics outsourcing relationship is like a marriage. Take it that seriously, because the consequences of getting it wrong are that it's not going to work after a year or two. You've got to go back to the market. You've got to go through all that nonsense of trying to pick another 3PL and negotiate and so on, just because you didn't go through the process right in the first instance. So do treat logistics outsourcing as a long-term relationship, not something that you're going to, you know, necessarily change every 3 or 4 years. So what I would like to do is to share with you a very simple guide. It's a one-page guide, but it's based on, I guess, helping people with these relationships for about 30 years. And what I've done is I've listed down 8 things that customers need to focus on and very often get wrong, and 8 things the 3PLs need to think about and very often get wrong. And if you want that, I'll just put a link in the description below this video. Okay, it's in the description. People often, when I'm sharing downloads, say, I couldn't find the link. It's below the video in the description. And you can download that and let me know what you think. Maybe if you've got some other tips on how to have really successful 3PL relationships, you could share those in the comments down below. So thanks for watching. Quick video this week, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.